Hey there, sports history fans. This is John Bozica from the PFRA podcast. Are you looking for that perfect, unique gift for your sports-loving child or grandchild? Or as you'll find out, it's great for parents and grandparents as well. Well, I'll tell you what, you're in luck, because this episode is brought to you by Racket, the ultimate device for the ultimate fan. It's perfect for any time you need to make some noise. Racket combines a compact 7-inch megaphone, 8 powerful adjustable LED lights, noisemakers, an insert you can design, and it's fully customizable to match your team's colors. The coolest thing about this product is the founder. J.J. Abram was the ultimate cheer dad, following his daughter's cheer group around the country. He saw parents using all sorts of crazy contraptions to make some noise for their kids, and then he had that aha moment. He thought, why not combine all of these thingamajigs into an all-in-one compact device for the ultimate fan? JJ and his team worked 3 years on developing version after version, finally landing on Racket. That's R-A-K-I-T. So you can make some noise and cheer and be part of the action. So get out there and let's get loud. Bring a Racket to your next game or competition to cheer on your favorite team or athlete. You can customize your Racket with your own logos, drawings, and names. Get beads to match your team's colors. Flashing lights add the excitement. Are you ready to make a Racket? Be part of the game. Each Racket comes with 1 Racket megaphone, 1 lanyard to keep a hold of this thing, 2 scratch-resistant bead packs, 1 clear and 1 color of your choice, and a 10-pack of customizable self-adhesive inserts, currently on sale for $24.99. To pick up your Racket today, head to myracket.com. That's myracket.com. Now get out there and make some noise.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
The Rose Bowl. The game that inspired the college football bowl season has a long and storied history. The stadium itself is 100 years old, and in celebration of it, Pigskin Dispatch is assembling some of the top historians and authors to share the memories, people, and events that make the granddaddy of them all the special game that it is. Enjoy this Rose Bowl memory from pigskindispatch.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of pigskindispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pigpen, your portal to positive football history. And we are staring down that portal to some more great Rose Bowl history. And we have our friend Dana Auguster from Historically Speaking Sports with us, the great podcast here on Sports History Network. And Dana, welcome back to the Pigpen.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me. Glad to be back here in the Pigpen.
Hey, Dana, you really got the juices flowing. Last time you were on, you talked about the 1966 Rose Bowl, UCLA and Michigan State, had us all fired up on that. And today you're going to talk about another UCLA game where they played in the Rose Bowl. And this one happened a decade later, and we are sure excited to hear about it.
10 years later, but it seemed like the situation never really changed much, because in 66, the Bruins were 14-point underdogs. 10 years later, they're back in the Rose Bowl. And believe it or not, 14-point underdogs again, but this time against Ohio State and legendary coach Woody Hayes.
Yeah, Woody Hayes was a very formidable coach. He's right up there in that era of being one of the top coaches. Probably with Paul Bear Bryant and Paterno and some of the other ones right in there. But legendary coaches with big time schools and great programs. And UCLA, slouched themselves, a great team that year as well.
Absolutely, it was talking about Woody Hayes. This was their 4th consecutive Rose Bowl appearance. And there was their fourth consecutive Rose Bowl appearance, led by, of course, the two-time Heisman winner Archie Griffin, who became the first player to start in 4 straight Rose Bowls. So that's an accomplishment. The only other person to do that was Brian Cushing of University of Southern California. I mean, and then you look at that team, that Woody Hayes team. Of course, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and that was their MO. You have Griffin, who's the running back, but you also have a bruising fullback, Pete Johnson, who ended up playing in the NFL with the Bengals. And then you had their quarterback, Cornelius Green, who was an outstanding, another quarterback that doesn't really get a lot of notoriety in this day and age, but he was tall, he was athletic, and he had this strong arm. He could throw the ball a country mile, but again, it's Woody Hayes, and they didn't really throw the ball that much. But then again, when you have those 2 bulls behind you in the backfield, why throw it? Especially when you have a 2-time Heisman winner in your backfield. So that was Ohio State. UCLA, on the other hand, coached by, in his second season, Dick Vermeil. And a lot of people don't realize that before he went with the Eagles and before he won the Super Bowl with the St. Louis Rams, he started off as an assistant under Tommy Prothro and was elevated to head coach. And the 1975 season, which was only his second year as head coach of the Bruins, you had a quarterback was John Shira, who later played for Vermeil with the Eagles, but as a safety, and had a long career actually in Canada playing receiver. But he came into the NFL as a defensive back. But on this day, he was UCLA's quarterback, which was interesting that you're going to make that transition from a big time school's quarterback to a safety in the NFL, which is not strange, but it's unusual. And then you have the running back, Wendell Tyler, who played a long time for the Los Angeles Rams, stayed in town, played for the Rams, and you also have a few other guys that made big contributions. A receiver named Wally Henry, who came up huge in this game for the Bruins. And so, but again, 14-point underdogs, that year. And a interesting thing about Vermeil, going back to him, he coached under some legends. He coached under John Ralston at Stanford. He worked under George Allen, the aforementioned Tommy Prothro, and also coached under Chuck Knox. So he had a great coaching pedigree heading into the game as a head coach.
Yeah, he's a very interesting individual. Of course, just voted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame this past summer. And, but he, like you said, he had a very interesting collegiate career going up through the ranks, and some of the teams he coached for and players he coached up, and other coaches that he came out of their coaching tree. And, he really made a great name for himself in the NFL. And really, this is sort of his MO, though. Usually what you said, he was in his second year with UCLA, he has him, playing a big time football game in the Rose Bowl, just like he did, with the Philadelphia Eagles. It took him a year or two, gets them up into the Super Bowl. The Rams, he's there 3 years. He gets them into winning a Super Bowl, I believe losing another one. And, Kansas City, he had them up and coming too when he was with them. So he really knew how to get his program off in 2 to 3 years after he started. Seems like that was his modus operandi.
That's right. I mean, and again, that's what he did with UCLA. And that UCLA team, they actually, another thing that they had in common in 1966 is that they had played their Rose Bowl opponent earlier that season. They had hosted Ohio State at the Coliseum, and the Buckeyes ended up winning that game 42-20. But being prophetic as he was, Woody Hayes told them, "You're going to see this team again in the Rose Bowl. Just be ready. You're going to see this team again." And sure enough, January 1st, 1976, there they were.
Very interesting. Okay, so we have 2 powerhouse teams again, pretty well balanced, coming at each other, played each other earlier in the season. Lopsided win by Ohio State, but Woody Hayes a little bit nervous about him. So tell us what happened during the game.
Well, Ohio State dominated the first half. If you go back and watch the game, UCLA didn't get their first down until late in the second quarter. So it was the defenses it was Ohio State's defense and the ground attack of Ohio State that dominated the game. However, they scored a field goal on their opening possession, and that was it. They didn't score any more. They didn't score any more in the first half. And it was mostly because of UCLA's front line that was just having their way, and plus two crucial turnovers, two interceptions by Cornelius Green that really slowed down any progress that Ohio State made during that first half. And it was 3-0 Ohio State at halftime, in which I know Woody Hayes was just tearing the paint off the walls at halftime. You could just about imagine that. Okay. Like I said, UCLA didn't register their first down until late in the second half. And they held Griffin in check, and Green was actually the bulk of their offense with his scrambling. But a fumble and two interceptions really cost them in that first half. Then the third quarter, the Bruins scored on their first possession, scored a field goal to make the score 3-3. And then Vermeil decided, we got to open up the offense. We can't go toe-to-toe running with these guys because they were basically an option. They ran the veer, which is hard to believe with UCLA, with their passing and their history of offense. Their main offense was the veer, and it was working with Shira at quarterback, pitching it off to Wendell Tyler. And in their second possession of the second half, they decided they had started getting some success with the veer option play, passing it off to Wendell Tyler. And then all of a sudden, they threw a play action pass and they fired it to Wally Henry on a 16-yard touchdown pass to give UCLA his first touchdown of the game. However, they missed the extra point. Later on in the third quarter, Shira finds Henry again, this time 67 yards. Basically what happened was he basically ran a slant right in the middle of the Ohio State defense and outran everybody. Wally Henry was listed on the UCLA roster as maybe 5'11". I doubt if he was that, because he was a really short, but he was so speedy, and he just carved up the Ohio State's defensive secondary and ran 67 yards for a touchdown. And I think at that moment, Woody Hayes panicked, I believe, because they started to throw the ball. I mean, throw the ball like every down. Instead of just going back to their offense, going back to what they got them there, Woody Hayes, I believe, panicked and started to throw the ball down the field. And that was like in 3 and out. And then UCLA, of course, took advantage of that. They're up 16-3. Pete Johnson finally scores for them in the fourth quarter to make the score 16-10. But they went back to the passing game, and of course, nothing happened. They went 3 and out again. And the UCLA scored their final touchdown, 54-yard run by Wendell Tyler right up the middle, and he made this outstanding cut right on the sideline, right around the 15-yard line. This real cut toward the inside that made about maybe 3 Ohio State Buckeye defenders miss. And he just ran into the end zone with the ball lofted up in the air for the touchdown to pretty much to ice the game. And the game ended on another Green interception. So, and that ended up being the final, 23-10.
Wow. So UCLA put the wood to him a little bit. And like you said, Woody Hayes panicking a little bit, maybe got a little bit frustrated with that running game, not churning out the yardage that he was used to, thinking maybe UCLA had his number and knew how to play that running game, possibly, huh?
I think what happened, I really think that's what happened, because the running game wasn't working as he thought it should have been working in the first half. So he might have thought that maybe he could have changed the game up and tried to go to a more passing game, which was really, if you look back on the Ohio State Buckeyes in the 70s, they really didn't throw the ball like talking about. It was all, I mean, when you have Griffin and Johnson back behind you, you just run the ball. You know what I'm saying? You run the ball, and for whatever reason, they decided not to.
Huh, that is really strange. When you have the backs like that with Johnson and Archie Griffin, I mean, I don't care if your running game is not working. You always have to go back to that's your bread and butter for decades for the Ohio State offense, and especially that year when two great stellar backs that they had. So that's really surprising that they wouldn't do that. So what happened in the aftermath? Was there national championship implications with this game?
Yes, it was, because Ohio State was number one. With them losing, all of the eyes turned to the Orange Bowl, which was Oklahoma against Michigan in the Orange Bowl that year. And Oklahoma ended up winning that game 14-6. And Oklahoma, with the Selman brothers, won the national championship. Well, was awarded the national championship. With the Selman brothers and Coach Switzer and that group over there from Norman, they ended up winning the national championship.
Yeah, they were spectacular, especially when the Selmans, all three of them were great collegiate players and went on to have some pretty decent NFL careers too. So, just great players there. And of course, we know Coach Switzer, what he did later on at Oklahoma and also with the Cowboys in the NFL. So
that's right.
So once again, UCLA is a spoiler and turns the tables on and changes the national championship title to go to a different team than what was number one going in.
That's right. And once again, I mean, maybe that's just our MO, as far as like a UCLA fan and stuff like that. When you think of college football in California, of course, the first thing you think of is USC, with people in LA, UCLA fans, that team from over there, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that's been UCLA's football program's MO. Now, the basketball program is a little bit different, but the football program has been like the little brother to USC. And in this case, they were on top this particular day.
Very interesting. Well, thank you very much for sharing that great Rose Bowl story and another great game for the UCLA Bruins and another upset win in the Rose Bowl. And Dana, you have some great social media that you put out. Maybe you could share where people can find you and follow you on some of the social media you're using and what exactly some of your posts are like.
Well, I mean, I'm on Twitter, which is historically SP and the number 2. That's on Twitter. And I try. I'm not successful at this all the time because of life and work and stuff like that. But because this isn't my only gig, I try to post something like what I call Today in Sports History. And I include what happened on this particular day in history, I'm not pretty much into one sport. I'm into all sports. I mean, I did one today, about boxing. I did, I do all sports, and I try to stay on top of that. Try to do at least 1 or 2 posts a day. I try, but of course I'm not always successful. But to be honest, but yeah, I think I get a great thrill out of that. I got a lot of people that anxiously await what I post and stuff like that, which is really cool, and it's also kind of feeds my own thirst for sports knowledge, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, your posts are great. They bring back some great memories and really turn a lot of excitement. And I see you get a lot of comments on them, and get people pumped up about some of the great things you do. And you end up using some great graphics and some images, usually from the event that you're talking about. That also just bring some great nostalgic flair to them. So we appreciate you doing that and preserving sports history.
Oh man, thanks. I mean, that's been a passion of mine since I was a little kid. So, having an outlet like Twitter and having an outlet like a podcast, it just kind of feeds that, my own personal thing, right? It's just the way that I am. And it's something that I've always loved ever since I was a little kid.
All right. Well, Dana Auguster, thank you very much for joining us here, celebrating this great Rose Bowl history. Again, you can find Dana on Sports History Network or your favorite podcast provider. He is the Historically Speaking podcast with Dana Auguster. Dana, thank you very much for sharing today with us.
Thank you, man. Thank you for letting me come on.
Peeking up at the clock, the time's running down. We're going to go into victory formation, take a knee, and let this baby run out. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back tomorrow for the next podcast. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. A special thanks to the talents of Mike and Jean Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.